Very quick channel update, everybody. As of June 9th, 2025, I have been uploading videos here on Baneshake for 10 years. That's right, June 9th is the 10-year anniversary of Baneshake. For this occasion, I am putting together a Q&A. I want you to submit any questions you want me to answer with my real face. To do so, you can do it one of three ways. One, I will be making posts on the channel. I've already made a couple. Anything submitted on those, I will know will be included. Two, if you want to just include one directly on any of my videos, make sure to leave in parentheses Q&A in some form, so that I know you are trying to have it answered there. Or three, you can send questions through to any of my socials linked in the description on this video. Without further ado, whatever else I was about to do. As I have been covering LEGO games the last couple of years, finally have some deep dives started for the full console versions, by the way, a briefish history of, check them out if you haven't. There has been a sort of golden trifecta amongst the handheld ports that I keep having to reference back to. Usually these are different and weird on the weaker hardware, something I typically find quite delightful, which merits my time and attention. There's a whole selection of those scattered in my Yesterday's Games playlist by this point. However, this trifecta always puts the biggest, potentially most damning expectations on everything that came after on the same device. No point hiding it, I already used it as a surprise twist for Indy 2. It's the PSP versions of LEGO Star Wars 2, Indiana Jones 1, and Batman 1. Those ports were simply the real deal, the main attractions. The PS2 versions modified to work in full on the little thing. Your experience on the TV and your experience in your palms was going to be rather close. And for the latter two, that's sort of as far as you can get, at least for the mileage I aim for on YouTube. Because it's just the experience, but on there, that's just a one-sentence novelty. No different than saying, "Boy, ain't it crazy that you can watch The Bourne Supremacy on my PSP," which you can probably guess isn't substantial enough for my eloquent hot air. LEGO Star Wars 2, the original trilogy, however, still somehow manages to be an exception amongst these exceptions, because it is the console game, except when it isn't the console game. Somehow it strikes a tightrope balance of mostly being an impressive handheld translation of the real deal, while still justifying a few weird things to give me fuel for my content creation fire. Don't read too much into that metaphor. Before I get too into that though, I bet a couple of you are thinking, wow, you really have some nice polished footage of this PSP game. What exactly, Baneshake's Charlie, are you using to emulate this game? Well, my PlayStation 5. Perplexingly. See, there are a series of PlayStation Classic games you can buy digitally from old enough PlayStation consoles, emulated with modern features like different screen overlays or rewinding, which are also available on demand with one of those fancier higher tiers of PlayStation Plus. For some reason, even though this catalog is chock full of PS2 games and LEGO Star Wars 2, lest you forget something I explicitly said like a minute ago, was a PS2 game. Why they didn't go for that version is beyond me. Like, if it were a PS3 game, sure, that thing had wacky infrastructure that makes it harder to emulate, and Sony has expressed no desire to, have to do hard work. But I can see zero reason why this was the choice here. Am I delighted when someone makes the most baffling choice possible? Absolutely. Should I get no say in these things, both because I have a dangerously high love for irony that would drive most men to madness like gazing into the eyes of an ancient being rising from the deep unknown, and also because this baffling choice benefits exactly me at the expense of a better experience for others? Probably. But just add that on top of the list of other weird things, and now this one somehow got weirder with age in a rather unprecedented way. Now, I know how this looks to some of you. They just added PlayStation Trophy support to this port of the game. I am not a trophy hunting slut. I only have 81 platinum trophies. It technically likely will be 82 with this game. I just didn't need to reach 100% for this video's footage needs. And technically it was only 80 when I started this rough draft, but then I impulsively replayed 100% of Jedi Fallen Order on PS5. For the second time, I have platinumed that game. Shit, that doesn't help. Look, the rough draft for this paragraph was explicitly written on February 19th at 4:45 p.m. EST. They didn't announce trophies would be added until March 6th. It's just coincidental timing. So I'm not a trophy slut. Sure, also, one of those platinums was for hentai versus evil. But in my defense, I was planning to talk about the dark side of playing games that are first and foremost goon bait as a topic for a video, but I had to shelve that one to prioritize other projects since this isn't my full-time job, insert Patreon plug here. You can tell I'm being honest because I put the anime girl in the least revealing outfit that wreck of a game would allow. She looked cold! I swear, I'm not... Guys, am I a whore? Just off the bat, off of what you're going to be experiencing for the solid start with this port, everything will line up with your expectations for LEGO Star Wars 2. The levels do the level things you would expect. There are obnoxious bats on Dagobah and saunas on the Death Star, and you can violently no-Russian the civilians of Cloud City, and it's all stitched together by the Cantina hub per usual. There were plenty of times playing through that I was able to forget I was even playing this version, until the various minor downgrades would pop in to remind me accordingly. Now, these were not deal breakers on the smaller screen, they're just more noticeable on the TV. Some textures really end up looking far more downgraded and blurry than others, which is the worst with the brown, rocky, deserty landscapes on Tatooine. Unfortunately, there's kind of a lot of the game that takes place there, with not only multiple levels, but also, the hub you'll be seeing with more frequency than any other location. Oh my god, does that one remind you about the downgrades? That whole planet just triggers the sense that you're waiting for the level to finish loading and give you some pop-in for improvements that never come. Most of the rest are not too distracting, and again, this could not have been a foreseeable outcome for the team putting this on the little screen. They did a commendable job, all things considered. A few other elements will show it too, of course. Studs definitely don't look as crisp as other versions, and individual minifigures are weirdly inconsistent as to who gets pixelated harder than others. Don't even get me started on the faces. Too late, I'm started. Complex enough lips glitch the fuck out in cutscenes and split right down the middle. I will not make a joke about chapped lips, those are serious business. In fact, I also know some of you are sitting there. You haven't had enough water today, and now that I've called attention to it, you can tell your lips are dry. Don't lick them, you'll only make things worse. Would you even hydrate if Daddy didn't tell you to? Guys, I think I might have made things weird with that one. In levels, characters' facial expressions don't change in real time, as they normally do, instead sticking to one preset emotion, sometimes leading to Chewbacca clearly trying to poker face his way through an existential crisis but failing horribly. We can all see your anguish, buddy. It's alright, I get it. I just turned 30, and now my adulthood looms ahead a vague blur until some point when I realize I have truly grown old but cannot pinpoint exactly when it happened, as is the transitory nature of time, and I too must gnash teeth and tear sackcloth at this predicament begotten by my station in life. Other than the visuals, playing through story mode and free play mode will not have any other changes. The hub does suffer our other downgrade, and honestly this one bothers me more than the ugly rocks. Barely. The Cantina is a ghost town, completely devoid of NPCs. It's you and player 2, and that's it. There's not even a barkeep. Honestly, it feels creepy. This place is supposed to be bustling. Your unlocked characters are supposed to start mingling around. Hell, half of the reason the original Star Wars established the feeling of an expansive galaxy so well is because they go into this bar at a formative point in the runtime, and there's one guy in some leftover werewolf costume and another with a butt on his face and others all mingling about. I think the term liminal spaces gets misused by online dummies who don't know what they're talking about far too often to willingly call this one of those, but it is a surreal degree closer to those than it should be. You also just have to keep in mind to finish a level as a bounty hunter if you actually want the studs from the metal objects outdoors, since you obviously won't be able to tag someone in. That's the main crux of the experience, which will line up as you would anticipate. It's the bonus content that changes. At the end of each movie, there are a series of bonus mission doors, and those are still the same. Sorry, very misleading. It's different bonus content that is different. Sadly, there is one omission. In the main version, there's a special door with Jabba the Hutt where you can go on bounty hunter missions, which are timed missions in the pre-existing levels to find where a character is hidden. If you have only played the complete saga, yes, it is those, but without the missions for prequel levels, obviously. Personally, the bounty hunter missions only have so much they add to the package. Since they're always in the same place, you lose something on replay, and it has been so many years since I was a first-time player that I simply cannot get something out of these, and that is not the game's fault. Also, I think the concept was actually perfected in Villain Hunt, exclusive to the Nintendo DS port of LEGO Batman the video game. You can check out my video there if you're curious. None of this takes away from the fact that I think the bounty hunter missions should have been in this version of LEGO Star Wars 2. A lot of first-time players would have been on the PSP, and they just missed out. Every other bonus content change is an addition, thankfully. The Jabba door is still there, still weirdly marked with the hut, but the room's different. Inside are versions of the climactic 3 levels from the original game: Darth Maul, Count Dooku, and Darth Vader. This was nice at the time, since the prior entry wasn't on the device, and it accidentally ended up being nice looking forward, too, as the complete saga was never ported to the PSP either. Not for lack of interest, mind you, but TT head of production, and man with a name so generic I can't help but suspect he's in witness protection, Jonathan Smith, confirmed in 2007, that it was just a decision from balancing limited resources. Each level's door gives you the option for the story so far, which appears to be repurposed game trailers for each movie's content, though between being pre-rendered at a resolution for the small screen as well as the fact that video quality just sucked in 2005, people didn't really believe in pixels yet. They show their age pretty hard. Also, they include copious footage from these levels, so the whole name of the story so far seems mildly chronologically misleading, but that's neither here nor there. What is both here and there is that, while welcome content all the same, these are the most cursed versions of these levels I have ever fucking seen. With the lack of any minikits despite keeping all of the infrastructure for them, that same emptiness that permeates the cantina starts to creep in here, but it gets so much deeper than that, in no particular order. Despite not officially having true Jedi still pops up when you hit a certain stud threshold. Dooku uses a lightning move from LEGO Star Wars 2, something that never existed in any version of the first game that I could find, instead of some of his other Force attacks. Episode 2 Anakin has his blue lightsaber instead of the green one he should be using during that scene, except for cutscenes, and he is weirdly smiley in a way I've never seen his character model ever use otherwise the whole time. The same episode's Obi-Wan is wearing his Starfighter communicator from earlier in the movie, something that didn't even make it into cutscenes in the first game, so dunno where that came from. and any of these versions of Obi-Wan can cast Force Confusion on Anakin like you can do to generic enemies in LEGO Star Wars 2, which does admittedly give you a little breathing room for the Darth Vader fight. Characters are placed in the roster with no rhyme or reason from these. Qui-Gon is put at the very end, and episode variants are all out of order. Geonosians all come out with normal blasters that use the sound effects of sonic blasters. Terrifyingly, Qui-Gon's eyes turn into black voids instead of little X's when he dies. And in case this feeling of the uncanny valley was all too subtle for you, if you let the Naboo starfighter out of the hangar, you can see the whole thing exists in some weird, dark void instead of beautiful Naboo, confirming this whole thing is happening in some horrifying eldritch pocket dimension. The other bonus content adds the most longevity to the game, and unlocks the other prequel characters. In other versions, the game detects a save file from the first game and lets you buy an extra to include characters who didn't otherwise return from before in the roster. Here, you unlock them as a natural gameplay bonus. People who have played the complete saga will probably recognize this, as it is such a good addition they adapted it there. Bonus mode takes the spirit of bounty hunter missions and free play and makes something new. You're still given a free play roster. Each level has 10 new blue bonus minikits hidden in new locations throughout. There are no studs to worry about, and you have a timer to beat to find them all. I like this one, because it's rare that the gameplay of these games can be fairly turned into a challenge. Unfairly, sure, all it takes is some element going out of whack, which does happen intermittently throughout all the series. But this one requires that you know the levels, know the mechanics, know who can do what, and do it all efficiently. Does it sometimes make certain elements like obnoxious combat choices more frustrating? Potentially a little bit, sure. Do I often get 9 out of the 10 and then I can't remember or fathom where I missed the 10th and now I gotta do it all again? Yep, skill issue, honestly. More than anything, though, it rewards you for harder work in a way that will still be accessible for players of most ages. If someone looked me dead in the eye representing PlayStation Classic's choice of this port and said, "Yeah, of course we went with the PSP version, it has bonus mode," I would acknowledge that they are absolutely right. This mode is brilliant. How dare I question their expertise? And then from shame, I would turn to dust on the spot, like the episode of The Twilight Zone that creeped me out as a kid. No, not that one. The one where he turns to dust. No, not that one either. That's the one with Hitler's ghost. There we go. That's me on the floor. From shame. In short, damn is the PSP version of LEGO Star Wars 2 good. Sure, it gets a little silly blown up across my TV nowadays, but it was above and beyond what a handheld game was supposed to be back then. It was the game with few compromises and several benefits. I literally went into this knowing I will just need to replay LEGO Star Wars 2 again in the near future for a briefish history anyway, and yet I regret nothing. Sure, some of that is because LEGO Star Wars 2 is just a really good game, and some of that is because I replay games far too often for far too few changes instead of just playing new games as a personal failure. Cough cough, Arkham City, Armored Edition. And some of that is technically a stopgap measure because making the PC version run is somehow more difficult for me than the first game was. Look, I may be the worst PC gamer you've ever heard of, but you have heard of me. By nature of being on my video. Yeah, I know Jack Sparrow's ego tripping is supposed to be a fault there, I am self-aware, thank you very much. But it is no wonder the expectations could get so daunting on later handheld LEGO ports, as I've discussed so many times. Look at LEGO Star Wars 3 on the same device. Sure, I had plenty of fun, but I couldn't universally recommend that one to everyone by the outro of the video. Not only because it's so far removed from what the full game could do there, but also because it had to compare against this game. That puts the bar on the damn ceiling. If you're trying to play this in the modern day, if you have an actual PSP, it's a no-brainer. If you're emulating, this version will run smoother on weaker devices than the GameCube or PS2 versions. Even if you're on PS5 with the new Strangeness, sure, it may check enough boxes to be worth your while, and some of you may already even have access if you have them fancy PlayStation Pluses. There are still another 2 alternate handheld versions of this game, much less literal and much less functional in one case, that I would be happy, more than happy, to come back to in the future if you're interested, or likely just because I'm interested. I just sort of do my own damn thing here. Let me know if you have any preferences in the comments. Like and subscribe, and bell yourself to best support the channel, and I'll send things over to my patron credits. Very special thanks are in order today because I have not 1 but 2 new patrons to thank. First up, Zalzjunge, who was very kind and even said I could go with the English translation from German of Salt Boy. However, you're here supporting me, so I wanted to give a little bit of effort to support you. Additionally, Revan, which is just really cool. Yes, that is for Darth Revan. If you want to join any of these fine folks, you can do so for $1 a month over on Patreon, where there is bonus content with more on the way. You can also find my various socials down in the description below. Thank you all for all of your support today.